Have you ever noticed how emotions can be the elephant in the room when it comes to changing our habits, changing our lives, moving forward in things? If you're curious about that, you're going to want to watch this short video. Hi, I'm Tara. This is Wellness with Tara. I hope you are doing well today. So emotions are these things that we don't tend to think a lot about, most of us anyway, don't tend to think a lot about until they are totally coming out sideways or we can't find them. Right? So if you want to use the phrase like a window of tolerance per se, like some therapists will use this phrase, and the window of tolerance, if you were to imagine this window, let's say that it's vertical like this, emotions that are kind of like exploding like a volcano, right? They're just coming out everywhere. I like to say they're coming out sideways, are above the window of tolerance generally. Those are the really expressive emotions, the real challenging ones to handle and kind of get our brains wrapped around. It just feels like too much. On the opposite end, below that window of tolerance, we have more the flat like way of being, where we go numb, we tend to dissociate, we tend to not really feel our emotions. We may even say, I'm not really an emotional person, like things don't really bother me. Either way has its own particular problems that it could, in ways that could be impacting you. But when it comes to change and changing our habits, we don't tend to think about our emotions too much. A lot of times we just think all I have to do is set up a certain set of habits or decide what direction I'm going to move in for that change, and then we try to do it completely unaware of emotionally how we feel, or we try to shove those emotions away, we try to push them down, or we try to run from them, or we come all out attack, right? Like we're gonna fight them, like fight, flight, freeze, kind of some of those responses. And we do that with ourselves and with our own emotions. And one thing that we may not realize is helpful or beneficial, that we should realize is helpful or beneficial, is that our emotions can either hinder us or they can help us when it comes to changing our lives, changing our habits, doing those things to move forward that we're wanting to do. And part of this involves, the very first step involves, the very first step involves being aware of our emotions. What are they? Are they even there? Can I even notice them? So being aware of them and what the tendencies are. Some of us have a tendency towards bigger, more noticeable emotions, and some of us have a tendency towards almost as if we have no emotions. And then there's a spectrum all the way around in the middle. Where are you kind of on that spectrum? Quite honestly, I tend to be on the side that doesn't acknowledge my emotions as much. And I've learned the very hard way that ignoring my emotions or pushing my emotions down will eventually lead to this opposite end of the spectrum, because it will eventually bubble up and come out. So if you're the type of person that tends to be like, oh, I'm doing good, I'm doing good, I'm doing good, I'm doing good, and then all of a sudden it's like a volcanic explosion over something super simple, then you may be trying to avoid or push down your emotions. And that really does impact change. Because if we're pretending, let's say that we're trying to change a particular habit and we're wanting to add this new habit, and immediately upon trying this new habit, we feel this like, ugh, I don't like this. And we're like, oh, just ignore it. Just ignore it. I'm not gonna listen to it. This habit's good for me, right? And so then we just move forward, we're continuing on, we're trying to change till eventually this little emotion is not little anymore. It gets louder and louder and louder till it's yelling at you, and then everything kind of falls apart, right? We can't ignore it. Or we can, but we pay the consequences. I personally believe as well that when we ignore stuff or run from our emotions, that eventually our body pays the price. In Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score is one of the first really big studies on this idea, but that when we have had either big trauma experiences or smaller trauma experiences or just everyday life experiences that we don't address, we don't handle, we don't pay attention to those emotions, we ignore them, etc., our body tends to speak for us. So if we refuse to acknowledge our emotions, it's not going to be long lasting, because eventually our body is going to create aches, pains, screams, telling you, listen, please listen. So if you're curious about this and you want to learn more, feel free to check out some of my previous videos, or get on my website, wellnesswithtara, TERRA.com. I've got lots of blogs, lots of resources there, and you can also schedule a free consult with me to see if coaching, what I do as a coach, what I offer as a coach, might be something to help you work through your emotions around the habits that you're trying to establish for the healthy life that you're trying to live. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.